Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing great. Hope you're doing great. Let me know when you get here. We got two blocks. We're working on Symphony 15, block 15 and block 16 today, which are very pretty. 15 is easy. It's just a lot of the duplicates of steps that we've done before, but 16 has something a little bit different. So I'll get to show you that technique. I'm loving how these blocks are coming out. I just think they're gorgeous. And they're blue. So blues and teals, I love. They're my favorite colors. But I'm using navy blue and white consistently through the entire quilt on a little bit on all the blocks. So it'll all go together, hopefully. No, it will. I know it will. All right, let's get this party started. This is block 15, and I've put the bulk of it together because we've already done this. We've done corner pops, we've done the corner beam. Oop, my wrong glasses. Hold on. So we've done all of this already. So I'm just going to put this last side together and show you how I piece it. It's very, very simple. There's no points to really worry about too much here. You just got to make sure everything is going in the right direction. And let's go. I hope you guys are enjoying this quilt as much as I am. I'm really liking the way this is coming so far. I love using the Studio 180 rollers. They just make everything so much easier. The whole idea with the Studio 180 rollers is you make everything a little bit bigger and trim it up, square it up afterwards. All right. There we go. I'm gonna iron this seam out. Like out. Nope, I iron these seams open. Now, of course, I keep forgetting to start my iron heating up. Ooh. I ironed all these seams open, connecting these blocks just because there's a lot of points. I really like the illusion of this block. Kind of, the square, the same idea as a square and a square, so it gets smaller and smaller. So this is only 2 layers, but I like it. I like the look of it. I could see a whole quilt with this block very easily, and I think it'd be gorgeous. Sometimes ironing seems open. It's a real pain in the butt because you got to make sure you don't mess up any of your other seams, but it's a necessary evil, unfortunately. Now I'm going to show you how I line these seams up since everything is open. So I'm going to eyeball 1/4 inch from here. And the 1/4 inch here is where the point from the smaller corner beam comes. I'm going to lay that together because the seams are all open for connecting. I'm going to keep my pin vertically up and down straight before I put the other pin in. Then I'm going to take it out. Again, I'm going to eyeball 1/4 of an inch. If you can't eyeball it, draw a line with a marking fabric marker. Hold on, I want to make sure I get that open seam and don't pin it closed. There we go. That's it. Now I'm going to sew this from this side up and make sure I don't cross over the X right here, so I don't cut off my points on this block. I'm going to adjust to make sure the fabric's where it needs to be and keep on going. I always pick up my foot when I come to one of my seams so that they stay folded in or ironed in the right direction. Stop with my needle down in my seam before I take my pin out, because unfortunately, just the act of taking the pin out can move your seam. Too shabby. I didn't hit any of my points. And this one's a little messed up. This alignment is a little off. So I'm going to fix that, but here you go. Okay. So what I mean by this one is it this one? Yeah, this one here is just a tiny bit off. So I will adjust that one later. But if you're happy with it, by all means, just leave it alone. I may decide to leave it alone after I'm all done, but we'll see. For now, it looks pretty. It's like a block inside of a block. All right. Let's go to block 16. Now this one I get to show you something special, a new technique. So we've got more corner beams. Okay, we've got a square inside of a square. This is the one I want to show you. That's the other part of it. So here is a 1/4 triangle block. We already know how to do this, but to remind you, you've got 2 half square triangles, you know, that are these 2 colors, and you put them together opposites, lay them right sides together and draw a seam opposite, draw a line from corner to corner opposite the seam of the half square triangle. So on each side of that half square triangle, and when you open it up, cut it off, you're going to have a 1/4 square triangle. We've done this many times. I want to make sure, see how I did my seams in the back? I pinwheeled them just so that they laid flat. I like to do that when we do 1/4 square, half square triangles or 1/4 square triangles, because then it's not bulky. It's a nice flat seam in the center. So in order to do this block, we're going to be adding replacement triangles like this, but we want to cut off those ends so we do it, we don't have a lot of bulk, and we know exactly where to put these replacement triangles. That's where the corner pop comes in. And we're going to use the 2-inch line. for our cutaway. So I've got the diagonal here. I've got one salvage side here. I've got the diagonal line there, and I've got the 2-inch mark here. And I put the diagonal line right on my seam. And cut one corner. Make sure your white stays up on top. Okay. Now I'm going to turn the block this way and do the same exact thing. So now I have my sides where I know where my triangles are going to go. And when I do this one, what I'm going to do is I line up the point of my triangle with my seam. And then I'm going to sew it from this side so I can eyeball the 2 dog ears and kind of make sure that they stay where they're supposed to. Okay. So again, here's a close-up. I'm lining up my replacement triangle with the point with this seam. And when I sew it from this side, oops, I'm sorry. Maybe you can see it better this way. Okay, I lined up the replacement triangle with this seam here, so the point. And I'm going to sew it from this side so that I can make sure my 2 dog ears stay the same size. Now I'm going to iron this out and we're going to trim it up and then we'll put the other side on. So I iron it out. It's fun. All right. Now we've got half of our replacement triangles on. So now we're going to use this side of the ruler. We used the 2-inch mark over here to cut off our ends. Okay, so this is the 2-inch line that we used to cut off the ends. Now we're going to use this corner again at the 2-inch mark to square up our replacement triangle that we just did. So I'm going to put the 2-inch mark on my seam going across there. And I'm going to lean the edge of, you could do it this way. I'm going to show you another way I do it, but and I'm just going to trim it up. You're going to put the edge here, put the 2-inch line on your seam and trim it up. That way this whole side is the same. I didn't cut across the top because it doesn't need it, meaning it's already 1/4 of an inch seam. So you don't want to make it any smaller. Now I'm going to put the other side on. Again, I'm going to line up my point with this seam and I'm just going to sew it. When I turn it over, I'm going to sew it from this side. I can eyeball that my dog ears are the same size. Now I just have to iron it up and trim up the other side. And then we're ready to put it together. This is a completely new technique. And I think it's kind of cool. It makes it look very, very cool. There you go. Now I just have to trim up this side. All right. Again, I'm putting my 2-inch line right on my seam, and I'm gonna butt the ruler up against this edge of the block. And it should, you have a dotted line here and here for your block, so it should all fit nicely. Now I'm gonna cut this end and this end because I can see I'm gonna have a 1/4 of an inch. Yes, you got to trim up a little bit here and there and in sections, but if you do it this way, you're going to have a perfect block every time. This one looks like it is not a square, but believe it or not, it's just an optical illusion. It really is a square, but I think it's a cool one. Okay, there is our block. Now I'll show you how I sew it together. So I'm going to sew this side first. I'm not even going to put a pin because the blocks fit perfectly. Let me know if my video is blinking on and off. It looks like it is from my side, but sometimes I find that's not true from your area, from when you're viewing it. Come on. Sometimes my sewing machine just doesn't want to. Go over it because I had so much problem starting it. I want to make sure it's sewed down. All right. That's one side. And if your blocks are cut correctly and you sew them in the right spot, this should be one continuous seam. Doesn't always work that way, but it should. If you want to make sure it does, let me show you how to do that. This is another option that I've used plenty of times. So I'm going to put a 1/4 of an inch mark right over my seam on this block. Oops. And then a 1/4 of an inch mark over the seam on this block. So you put it on the back of one side and the front of the other. See, I've got a 1/4 inch mark there and a 1/4 inch mark here. And then I'm going to take this pin and put it right in the seam at the 1/4 of an inch mark there and right at the seam of the 1/4 of an inch mark there. Hold the pin straight up and down, put another pin in, then I can take this one out and sew it directly across and you're fine. It should line up. But you know how mine is. Sometimes, even though you go through all the trouble of lining things up, they don't always stay lined up. And then I'm making sure I'm sewing close to or over that 1/4 of an inch mark that I drew. Let's see how well it did. Not too shabby. Now these seams we ironed open. Almost done. Let me know if you have any questions on any of these blocks or tools. I will happily show you how to use the tools over again if you're still not quite sure. But the more blocks we do, the more consistent you should be getting with using the tools. All right. So here, I'm going to eyeball 1/4 of an inch because it's an open seam. And here it's the same thing. If you have to draw the 1/4 of an inch mark, by all means, go right ahead. Just after a while, you get pretty good at eyeballing 1/4 of an inch. So I'm holding my pin straight up and down with my 2 fingers and put a pin in. Then I can pull this one out and do the next one. Now here, I highly recommend you make sure you line these up because you've got a point here and a point here. So hold on. I'm going to put my pin in just at the top of my point here and my pin in my point there, holding the pin nice and straight before I pin it and take the pin out. So now we've just got one more point. I'm going to do a 1/4 of an inch here, and eyeball 1/4 of an inch there. And there we go. I'm sewing it from this side. So this side is up. Again, I want to make sure I don't cut off my point. So you want to be on the right side of the X just by a thread width is all you really need, is all you need. You don't want to go too far over because then you don't have a 1/4 of an inch seam and you'll see too much space before the point. Hopefully you can see this because I'm seeing blank screen. I don't know if this is correct. Hold on. I hope you can see this. You're not missing it. All right, let's try it again. Let me know when you watch the video if you saw everything and it wasn't blinking. Stop with my needle down in my seam before I take my pin out. And I'm going to adjust. All right. Let me just tap down this one spot. That's even double start. Let's see how well I did. Oh, look. Didn't cut off my points. This one's pretty close on this side. Continuing the line, so is this one. Very nice, very nice. There you go. There's block 16. I think it looks pretty. So 15 and 16 done. We only have, I don't know, 115 more to go. I might be doing triple blocks soon just to get this done because it seems like it's taking forever. Let me know if you want me to do more than 2 blocks a week. Right now, I'm going to go shopping. I need some retail therapy. I will see you next week. Let me know if you guys have any questions or problems with it. If you weren't sure how to use the tool, let me know, and I will gladly help you out and do another video if I have to. If you're not sure, you can also go to YouTube Studio 180, and she shows you how to use every ruler, like every single ruler that they sell. She always has more than one video, step by step, if I have not explained it. But let me know, if you missed something, and I will adjust how I teach it too. All right. I hope you have a lovely weekend, everybody. Bye for now.